Coming to you from the Ground Zero Radio studio, this is the TeenTix Arts Podcast. You can call us TAP for short. We're all part of TeenTix programs which work to emphasize youth voices in the arts. I'm Katherine, a newsroom writer for the TeenTix blog.
I'm Lucia, a teen editor for TeenTix.
Hi TAP listeners, I'm Sumeya, a member of the New Guard TeenTix Arts leadership, as well as a TeenTix newsroom writer. We're excited to be here with everyone. In this episode, we'll talk about the exciting events that are featured this April. So Lucia, what's on tap today?
Today, we're going to be covering a variety of arts events, from opera in quarantine to films created just for teens. First off, let's talk about Seattle Theater Sports.
Yes, so Unexpected Productions has a new show coming up that will be in person for the first time since COVID, and that is Seattle Theater Sports. I'm not entirely sure what that entails, but from the looks of the trailer, it seems like it's going to be theater sports and talking about sports and just having a grand old time and talking about sports culture. Unexpected Productions is actually like this hidden gem within Seattle, and it's located, in this tiny little area of Pike Place, and it's easy to miss, but once you've been to a performance at Unexpected Productions, you're never going to forget it. So in 2019, I actually saw their Christmas Carol, and it was chock full of laughs, and then I also saw it virtually, so I'm really thrilled to hear that UP's getting back to its Pike Place home, and I wonder how COVID and social distancing will go into that.
Definitely, I agree. It's great that they're going back, given that, like Sumeya said, it's been going on for a while, and it's a pretty important part of local arts. I think its return is pretty meaningful. It's a tradition here, and it's also sort of a window to the future of art as in-person venues are able to go back. Unfortunately, keeping safe in the current environment cannot always mean going back to in-person events. Certain venues that we're discussing are going to be remaining online for the foreseeable future. As a dancer myself, I've experienced firsthand the difficulties of doing online performance. You have to be creative, and the technology has its inescapable limits. Pacific Northwest Ballet takes on its challenge with our next event, Rep 4, which, if you've seen Reps 3, 2, and 1, it's a set of creative dance works presented fully online. And actually, one thing that I noticed is that some of the choreographers involved are not based in the Pacific Northwest. So I've noticed that being online actually allows for some greater accessibility and collaboration. And there are some parallels with Rep 4 that we've been looking at in correlation with other events, if you guys want to touch on that.
Yeah, the accessibility of both ballet at the Pacific Northwest Ballet and opera at the Seattle Opera's current Big Opera show are definitely changing. There are so many parallels, such as dressing up to being in a big theater with storylines that may not always be the easiest to follow. So I wonder if being online will draw more youth to watch. With the accessibility changing in a positive direction and challenges such as transportation being eliminated, I can definitely see the future of the arts being more accessible with these online platforms. When I've gone to the opera in the past, there's definitely been an emphasis placed on the physical venue and dressing up. So now they seem to be embracing these virtual performance platforms like many other forms of art. I imagine this will also improve accessibility, like I've mentioned. Sumeya, do you want to talk about your experiences since you've attended both an in-person and online performance?
Yes, so with my TeenTix pass, I've been able to go to way more opera performances than I ever would have been able to go to had I not had a TeenTix pass. Actually, right before COVID, the last art event that I saw was Charlie Parker's Yardbird at McCaw Hall. And then I saw another performance done by Seattle Opera, Songs of Summer with Angel Blue, which was virtual in June 2020. And I would say after going to these two performances, it's a very different experience, and it's really valuable in both ways. Katherine talking about that a bit of intimidation around going to McCaw Hall as a teen is definitely there, and it's kind of this bubbling of excitement. And you get to see the art and you get to see the costumes. And I also think that seeing Songs of Summer with Angel Blue was really a more intimate experience. And so it's been interesting seeing these very personal performances in opera, which is really generally known as such a historical arts form, converting to a very new concept and a new world. And I think that within Songs of Opera and within Angel Blue's performance and what they're doing, you really see people's facial expressions and real aspects of the performers that you don't get to see on stage. So I think it's really exciting that the big opera show is there and that they're showcasing so many performers from different areas.
Definitely. It's great that they're doing that. Changing subjects, we're going to talk a bit about Accidental Death of an Anarchist, which is a theater production done by the University of Washington. It's basically a piece about, as the name says, an accidental death of an anarchist, but artistically it's pretty psychologically focused, which is very topical for most people, given that we're all sort of stuck in our own heads in quarantine. There are also themes of corruption, especially police corruption and chaos in the production, which hits home with the state of the world at the moment, despite this story, this real-life story that the production is based off being from about half a century ago. And like we've talked about with other events, the people who worked on this production are from areas not in the Pacific Northwest, from across the globe. So I personally have to wonder whether arts venues will continue with this remote accessibility. And definitely with the nuance of the themes in this piece, there's a variety of interpretations that an audience member could have.
I agree. It's interesting to note how personal lens plays a huge role in both the interpretation of the play through the personal lens of the audience, and the Future Wave at SIF shows how the personal lens of the writers can result in different takeaways as well. These are films created by local teens for local teens, and giving teens this unapologetic creative space for anything they want to film about gives both the creators and the viewers a very unique experience. These films are targeted towards 13 to 21-year-olds, and speaking of personal experience and personal lens, because 13 and 21-year-olds are in such different parts of their lives, what do you all think about this wide age range and how their personal perspectives may change their views on these films?
So initially, when I heard that it was focused primarily created and for 13 to 21-year-olds, I was a little confused. That's a really wide breadth of content, but I actually think that there's kind of this sweet connection between that age range and that it's really cool that SIF is focusing on that. What I noticed is that a lot of these stories that are up there, ones that are focused more toward that bracket of around 21, that age, they're more about going out into the world, first jobs or moving out or kind of just becoming your own self. And that same thing is represented through 13-year-olds and the films that are being made within that genre. And so I actually think they come together rather nicely in a way, because it's talking about that stepping out and kind of becoming your own self at two very different sides, kind of when the beginning of when you get to do that and near when you're starting to become more confident. And it was also interesting to see that they're set in the 1990s, which is very popular, obviously, in the 1990s in general with our generation, even though now that it's 2021, we've all been born in the 2000s. But I think it's cool that there's that part because it feels very real. And having such a broad variety of these films in an online format has helped to reach such a big youth audience. And this selection encompasses a variety of aspects of the youth experience. And I think that it's one of the least well represented. I actually want to give a shout out to SIF Cinema, especially in Future Wave, because I have so many friends that have had such amazing opportunities as youth creators with SIF and represented mainstream media. Teen stories are something that's definitely happening and they're out there in mass media, but they're not often told by youth creators. And so I think it's really admirable that SIF is doing that and giving a platform to teens who have a voice and activists who are making these stories.
Definitely. It's awesome that they're doing that. We're going to talk about a few more events of interest that TeenTix isn't covering specifically this month, but you should definitely go and check them out. Start with Pacific Music Works and its 20 to 21 virtual season, Genius Unbound, which started in November 2020, so it's been going on for quite a few months. Though the sort of instrumental and vocal music that it focuses on arguably has had an easier transition than other arts events we've looked at. I personally find how committed they've remained to their format to be impressive.
The Seattle Arts Museum has also finally opened back up to the public with the long-awaited Jacob Lawrence exhibit, where for the first time since 1958, 30 of his paintings from the American Struggle series are reunited. We have a review on this exhibit on the blog, which you should definitely check out.
Definitely, and we also would like to give a shout out to Anastasia Renee's Don't Be Absurd, Alice in Parts, with a very timely and important theme of gentrification, and with those same ideas that can be interpreted differently by a variety of audience members. We also have a review on this, so go and check that out.
Yes, and down by Bellevue at Bellevue Arts Museum is the exhibit Yellow Number 5, which is all about colorful themes of consumerism represented through arts and multimedia. So you should definitely check that out.
And finally, another very timely exhibit. The Wing Luke Museum is reopening, and they've created an exhibit on the Asian Pacific Islander experience and the impact of COVID-19 on their communities. I'm so excited to learn more about people's stories from this time, along with seeing how the Korean American community stories have been put together with the interviews that I conducted.
Yes, you've been involved in the exhibit, right, Katherine, which is super exciting.
Yeah, so I got to speak with members of the Korean American community, interview them, ask them about how they've been dealing with COVID-19, living their lives, and even the hate crimes if they've experienced any. So it was a really great experience.
That's awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in to the TeenTix Art Podcast at Ground Zero Radio, where we listen to be heard. I'm Lucia.
I'm Sumeya.
And I'm Katherine. The music in this episode is written by the Steve Griggs Ensemble, produced through the Jack Straw Artist Support Program. A big thank you to the Teen Programs Manager, Mariko Nagashima, the Programs Coordinator Intern, Katherine Schultz, the Ground Zero Program Manager, Maso Yamada, and our generous donors from the TeenTix Gala who help support programs such as this podcast.
Woo woo! You can find us on our blog at teentix.org/blog or on the TeenTix YouTube and SoundCloud channels. TAP looks forward to covering this new transition into art in a COVID-vaccinated world. Thanks for listening, and tune in next month for more insight on the arts of today.